because that's why Biden was shoved into the White House. That was his role. And we demonstrated he has a long-term history with Klaus, and specifically to bring in the digital infrastructure. America has to go if these guys are going to reset to a global society, because America is the backbone of the global economic world with the dollar. And that's what Joe was brought in to do. He came close, didn't quite finish it, and that was the concern. If Kamala got in, which is going to be Joe Part 2, or really Obama Part 4.
Yeah, really.
Then I think they would have finished the job. But we dealt with that. So, but in my research, as I'm going, working, discovering the backgrounds and ins and outs of what Klaus is up to, including our own country, I began to come across a consistent pattern with certain global elites that appeared to, wait a second, they seem to be helping this along as well. And I kept just shoving it into categories and folders, and that's what you do when you research, or at least that's what I do.
Yeah.
May not use it now, but it might come in handy down the road. And sure enough, it did. And as the dust settled after that, I realized that, wait a second, we're not done. And really, this is the 5th installment. And this is demonstrating how there's global elites. And when I mean elites, I'm talking about billionaire, not million, billionaire elites around the planet who are working with Klaus. Every single one of them has a connection with him to also get the dirty deed done as well. And so they do that with their money, and they do that with their power. So let's expose them. And that's what it came up to.
Yeah, I really appreciate it because, some of the work that we've done as relates to the 10 Kings, and I throw that out as a potential option and interpretation, in that are the 10 Kings, 10 global elites, contributing to the beast system, because we know they are there, according to Daniel 7, before the Antichrist shows up. But regardless of that, when you came out with this, I'm like, man, this is great, because it goes along with, again, just that concept that they are part of it and providing. And one day, I see it as maybe a little bit more official in Revelation 17 that they hand over their power and capabilities to this guy in order to rule with him.
Right.
And so all the things that we're seeing here, all this wealth, and one of the things that I mentioned in my presentation on that was, how do rich people, I call them the 10 influencers, because basically because of the Greek word, but how do these rich people influence? And you obviously show here how they do it, but they do it through money, through lobbying, through bribery, through philanthropy. I mean, all these things that they do through technology, through control. So what we're seeing is the Antichrist doesn't just show up to Mayberry,
right,
and here I am and worship me. Right. No, he comes into a system that's already there, and we've been discussing using like a turnkey B system.
Yeah. Well, and it has to be logically and biblically, because again, like you say, it doesn't just show up and I better get started. You're talking about global infrastructure, a global government, a global religion, right? A global economy that's specifically cashless, only on digital, the globe, and globally, biometrically all tied together with a unique individual identifier system. And so he's got a certain, we know biblically, a time frame to work with. The 7-year tribulation is 7 years. You don't just show up and nothing's been done.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I better start micromanaging big time and delegating, because I only got 7 years to launch this global economy.
And he's got to do it by the half point, right?
Exactly.
But so let me ask you this, as you just kind of a segue. So this has been, you said 1971, at least Klaus Schwab. But overall, this system is going to be in the making for decades and decades and decades.
Yeah, because again, you're talking something. It's one thing to try to take over a country. These guys are coordinating, taking over the world. I mean, it's going to take some time, but this is what they've been doing, slowly but surely, methodically. I mean, you could even go back. We did a whole documentary and study on Freemasonry. Freemasonry, I don't want to get off track, but has its roots in a lot of this stuff too, especially these guys' modus of operandi. The motto for the Scottish Rite Freemasonry is order out of chaos. And that's what these guys do. They create chaos and they make order out of it. That's how they advance their agenda forward. You go back to Albert Pike in the late 1800s and his vision that there's going to be 3 world wars. And out of that, they're going to do them on purpose. And you look at what he described, it was clearly, a lot of people believe, World War I, World War II, and there's going to be a final war that between the Jewish and the Muslim. This was in the late 1800s, Mondo.
There was no Israel yet.
Right, and then that was going to be the one to bring in the Antichrist, who they think is a good guy because they're Luciferian.
Do you think on that as it relates to you and I are on the same page on this, where I know others that believe that the seals have either been opened or maybe there's opened in the gap. But I've asked you before that we believe that Revelation 6:1, when the seals open, that's the beginning of the tribulation period.
That's Daniel 9:27. It's a parallel.
I agree, 100%.
Matthew 24. It's all a parallel.
It's all right there.
Carbon copy order.
So in that you have the chaos of the rapture, number one. That's going to be huge, and then, of course, you have the guy show up on the scene, conquering and to conquer. Doesn't mean he's making war. But then with the second seal, you have peace being taken from the earth. And then you have war and all the other chaos. So, and of course, the first half of the tribulation is again, the Antichrist we know from Revelation 13 is he rules for 42 months with, as an autocrat, 100%.
Yeah.
But that first 3.5 years is kind of solidifying. He's on the scene now. He's revealed, but he's solidifying his thing. But you think that whole, the second, third, fourth seals contribute to the chaos, which allows him then to step in at the midpoint?
Oh, I think so too. In our, we had another documentary on the seals. I did a deep dive just on that. And a panoramic view of the first half of the 7-year tribulation. Yeah. And in that, my synopsis, it hit me once I was going down, and I just basically, literally line by line, word by word in the original language, just pulled it up for all it's worth. And to me, the seals, the first half, is the perfect setup for what he's going to do, because that's when he institutes the mark.
Yeah.
And think of this. Now, when you take a look at what goes on in the seals, the global destruction, 1/4 of the earth is annihilated, the global famine, the global pestilence, all this stuff, wars and all this stuff. And then what a perfect time after all that on a global basis, nonstop. He says, hey, he goes up in this temple, says, worship me. And then if you take my mark, you're not going to have to worry about famine conditions anymore. Yep. I'll take care of you. You can buy and sell, right? Oh, you could see the emotional, psychological setup.
People are worn out, right?
After
desperation,
that, and then he's already on the scene, but now he comes on the scene to take it to the next level. Worship me and take my mark. And how many people will say, oh yeah, I don't ever want to go through that again. I mean, I lost 2/3 of my family to starvation. I lost, all my friends, my whole community was decimated in that pestilence. And I just got to say, you're God, and take this mark, and I'll never have to suffer again. You could see the setup.
And just a couple of years before, they might have lost their family in the rapture.
Exactly.
Right? So again, chaos upon this little moment of peace and safety, right? We see peace there in Revelation 6.
Yeah.
Peace will be taken from the earth, which means there's a certain level that is existing, because if it's removed, logically. And of course, 1 Thessalonians 5, when they say peace and safety, boom. But one of the things that you do as well in here, which I really appreciate, since we're talking about this Antichrist figure, is you kind of give you start out with, who is the Antichrist? Number one, what does the Bible say about this guy?
There you go.
And then let's look around at some potential candidates.
Yeah.
And you're not guessing, but you're analyzing the people who do guess.